The Lakeport Plantation home was built in 1859 for Lydia and Lycurgus Johnson in Lake Village, Arkansas. The Johnsons were cotton farmers that moved to Arkansas from Scott County, Kentucky in the 1830s. In 1860, there were 155 enslaved laborers working about 2,000 acres of farmland growing cotton, corn, and other crops. The Johnson family owned Lakeport Plantation until 1927. The house and the property was sold to Sam Epstein, and he used the house as a farm manager's home. The house was abandoned in 1972 and sat empty for almost 30 years. In 2001, Sam Epstein's grandson, Sam Angel, donated the property to Arkansas State University for restoration. Lakeport was restored to what it would have looked like in 1860. The entryway would have been the first room guests would see and begins the formal part of the house. The 14-foot ceilings with crown moldings and a ceiling medallion to hang a light fixture made the room look much larger and more extravagant. During restoration, the original floor cloth was found. A floor cloth looks like carpet, but was much easier to clean in the 1800s. The 12-foot doors were painted to look like rosewood, and the fireplace mantels were painted to look like marble. This was done to make them look more expensive. The original faux marbling was left in 3 rooms, and one mantel had the faux marbling recreated to show what it would have looked like in the 1860s. Along the side of 3 of the mantels downstairs are bell pulls. These would be used to ring a bell that hung above the kitchen door on the back of the house to summon one of the 6 to 8 enslaved laborers that worked in the house. Through the dining room is the servery. The servery is where the dishes were stored. The enslaved laborers working in the kitchen would bring the food from the kitchen along the back porch, plate the food in the servery, and then serve in the dining room. The last formal room in the house is the music room. The piano was added to the Johnson family tax records in 1869. The windows in this room are different than the other windows throughout the house. These are in acid-etched glass. This would allow for natural light to come in the room without the Johnsons or guests seeing the enslaved laborers working on the back of the house. One mystery of the house is the ceiling star. Paint analysis shows this was painted in the late 1870s. We don't know what may have inspired this design to be painted on the ceiling. The drawing room begins the informal part of the house. The doors transition from 12 feet to 8 feet with a transom window. There is no crown molding, and this room would have been used as a family room. The sitting room is another informal room and would allow for the enslaved laborers to move in and out of the house. When Lakeport was built, the Johnsons used enslaved labor to grow and harvest cotton. After the Civil War ended, many of the former enslaved laborers became sharecroppers. The L porch was where the enslaved laborers would be able to go in and out of the house without being seen. This large, round structure is a cistern and would be used to collect rainwater from gutters. This water would be used for cooking and cleaning. On the L porch was a commissary that was used until the 1980s. A commissary is a store that sells food and household needs. The kitchen is the furthest room from the main part of the house on the L porch. There would have been at least 1, but possibly 3 enslaved laborers working in the kitchen cooking meals for the Johnsons. The stove is the original Wallace and Lithgow stove. This is a wood-burning stove, and it would take at least an hour to get hot enough to use each day. The dairy located on the back of the house would be used to keep milk, butter, and cheese cool. This smokehouse would be used for smoking meat, mainly pork, to feed the 155 enslaved laborers working on the plantation. The second story of the house still has some of the original paint on the wood trim. The dressing room is the only room upstairs that has closets. One would have been used for storage, but the other closet may have been used as a living quarters for an enslaved laborer tending to children in the nursery. This room may have been used as the master bedroom because it is the only room upstairs that has a bell pull to summon an enslaved laborer. When looking at the master bedroom from the outside, there are 2 sets of shutters, but once inside, there's only 1 window. This is a false window to maintain the symmetry of the house on the exterior and gives extra space for furniture placement inside. There are 2 additional bedrooms upstairs. This bedroom has been left unpainted, so you can see how much structural damage has happened to the plaster walls over 160 years. The second bedroom has been fully repainted to show what the upstairs would have looked like when the Johnsons moved into the house in 1860. The last room upstairs is the nursery. The cradle in this room was used by members of the Johnson family. For more information about Lakeport Plantation, visit lakeport.astate.edu.